That's good.
Okay.
Spike Portage had one of the original, or one assigned by the...
I want to turn it just a little more.
This way?
Yeah, a little more this way. Yeah, that's good.
There?
There you go.
Yeah, but it's that small in the box. You look at them all, huh?
Oh.
Here they have this that's all. Okay.
I'd like to introduce you to Liza Tebow. She's a daughter of Chief Mike Flatt, and she has a few stories I'd like to have her tell this afternoon.
I'll tell a story about how they crossed to Alvarado in the winter, in the fall time, you know. And my dad used to stop in that tree to put offerings of tobacco. And he was just a little boy. He crawled up that rock. And they were in a little canoe, birch bark canoe, my grandmother, my grandfather, and my dad. So he got up on the rock there and put offering of tobacco for a safe crossing to El Royal. Now that's about 22 miles across. So that little birch bark canoe was Indian made. My grandfather had a little pot of tar and pitch in case it springs a leak on that little canoe. They went there to trap. There was abundance of fish to live on for the winter. That's why they went to Alroy. So they stopped on that witch tree. My dad did, you know. And some places maybe it does bring a leak on that canoe. He just made fire on that little pot and patched it from the inside. That's how they got across to go to Isle Royale and wintered there for trapping and hunting for living purposes. That's how short that is.
Could you tell us now about your young childhood as you were growing up at Grand Portage? What it was like then compared to
Well,
nowadays?
we just had one school, one little old school, one room school where all the kids went, you know. And we didn't live very far from the school. We just ran to the school. We never got no buses like they do now. Now they ride on the bus and in style, but we didn't. We had to walk through snow to go to school. Then finally my dad built a house up there that burned recently, the big house. There we had to walk further, about half a mile, about half a mile to the school. So that was much harder times then for the kids. I was already grown up then. But we had good times. We'd play in snow, slide down the hill, Church Hill, up past my dad's house, past Grandpa's house. I wish we had pictures of those now. You know where Marcella's got those pictures.
Well, how did it compare to, was there a lot of trees at that time?
There was no trees. Everything was all together there. My grandmother lived there. My grandfather was a postmaster. I guess we got mail once a week. Later on, we got mail 3 times a week. But there was no trees.
That whole area in
The whole area,
was all
clean
clear.
up to where your grandmother and you know where Billy LaPlante used to live. Well, that's where your mother and your grandparents lived. Yeah. Well, you could see that in little ways between there, my dad's place and Charlotte's place. It was all opening. It was nice. We had fun, I guess. But now everything is modern. Everything is easier for children to grow up in. They have buses to go to school in. Them days we didn't have no high school. We couldn't go to Grand Marais. There was no way to get there. There was no roads. In summertime we got Steamer America to bring our food here. That was 3 times a week. That's when we started getting mail 3 times a week.
Where did that steamer land at? Did it land?
It landed on the island.
That was Grand Portage Island?
This Grand Portage Island, yeah. It had a great big long dock away from the fish houses, you know. And that's where it landed. 3 times a week it came, and the mail came with it too.
Was Pete out there then when
Pete
you were
done
growing
it.
up?
Pete. I worked there. I was only 8 years old. I was working there for him, washing dishes and waiting on tables. There was a lot of lumberjacks through here then. You know, if you go by my dad's house that burned, you can see still tracks there where the wagons went through. Them days.
Yeah, some of them are still visible yet.
Yeah, you can see them yet. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did. We thought we were having a good time. And after we got to growing up a little bit, me and my brother, we used to haul those lumberjacks across. My dad had a great big old boat, and we'd put about 11 of them in that big boat across to the island, coming or going. Sometimes we had 11 going, and sometimes we had 20 coming back on that old boat, you know. We got 50 cents a piece for bringing each person.
What did they go up there for? Did they get
They
supplies?
were working up the camps. There was 1, 2, 3, clean up to Camp 9.
They went out, what was the reason for going out to the island?
That's the way they get out of Grand Portage.
Oh, then they got on that boat,
They'd get on the boat, yeah.
America, or
To go to either Canada or Duluth. Yeah. That's, we got paid 50 cents. We were making good money. Me and my brother. My brother since passed away then. He was only a young man when he passed away. Alec.
Yeah.
Not John. John's been crippled ever since he was a kid. Small boy. That's how we lived. And sometimes in the wintertime, old Pete Guy would run out of groceries, like flour, sugar, whatever most they used. He always had a big old bunch of dogs. He'd feed those dogs in summertime. Then he'd take them to Canada, about 7, 8, in a bunch of them old dogs, you know.
to get supplies.
To get supplies through Canadian ice. That's really hard times then.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Hmm.
Did you say you rode a boat?
Yeah, we drove. We you know, rowed the boat. Me and my brother. We had a big boat. Sometimes we had 13 of them in there.
And how far was that?
That's about a mile out here. This island here. Uh-huh. There was a lot of buildings there in the island. There was just like a city there. So a place where the lumberjacks stayed. Sometimes there'd be about 50 of them. Sometimes going up those camps to work. Now there's nothing. No wood to cut hardly. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it sure changed.
Yeah. That's about all on that deal. Now I'll tell about the sugar bush business. You know, my grandmother had a great big sugar camp. She used to tap as high as 1,500 trees. But they would be all around sometimes. On each tree there'd be about 3 or 4 tappings. You know, and we all had to work hard to haul that sap with deep snow for boiling. Sometimes it'd be about 20 pails in that big fire where they'd boil the sap. There were good times too, you know, after work, hard work. They'd make sugar cakes and some little cones and they'd sell them. And syrup, they'd make syrup. They had their own baskets they made out of birch bark. Some of them would hold 50 pounds of maple sugar. They would be packed down, and my grandfather told we would pack it down to Portage. That big 50-pound, sometimes 80 pounds, and Grandma would be making those baskets herself out of birch trees. Sometimes you go down there you see those, the way they're shaped up, you know, that they're shaped like you could put them on your back, you know, so, and that would be full of sugar. Grandma used to have at least about 8 of them full for the year. It was 80-pound sugar. It was good syrup too. She'd have about 100 gallons of syrup. Real big time. Gee, we'd burn a lot of wood too when they made boiled sap.
Where was your sugar bush at? Was it up by Swamp Lake or Trout Lake?
No, you know where the people made sugar there last year?
Right at the sugar bush site now.
I walked up there with this little guy that was trying to dig up old stories from. I walked up there with him where the sugar camp was. Just the other day. Oh gosh, you could hardly get through there for wood. It's so full of woods.
Lots of brush has grown up since then.
Brush growing up.
Whose sugar bush was up at Swamp Lake?
That was from people from Grand Marais. And Spruce was the last one. Drew Spruce and his wife. And then a little bit on this side would be Morrison's camp. Jim Morrison and that bunch. Bossy G. And then further down would be your mother's and Charlotte's. That's where and Joe Fisher and his wife. And then my grandmother's place. My grandmother's was pretty big, and so was Morrison's. They had a big tent. Just recently, not very long ago, they found a cache of trees, those pots and pans,
Copper pots.
copper kettles.
Yeah.
Somebody found them. I think it's Sorley found a cache of all copper kettles. He wouldn't part with them. I think maybe they were my grandmother's trees.
A lot of that stuff has disappeared by the loggers being out there, just
Yeah, I
packing it
guess
off.
so. I guess so. And they had their places. They them days nobody bothered nothing,
You could
They
leave it.
just leave it there. She used to leave her syrup until next spring when we go up again. There'd be a fresh gallon syrup there.
It would be there when you got
Yeah,
back the
and
following year.
sugar too. Yes, that's how they worked it,
Well, those baskets they collected sap in, that was birch bark too. wasn't
That
it?
was birch bark.
And then they made their little spiles out of
Yeah,
cedar.
Yeah, that's. Well, my grandfather, he used to go up there before Grandma did, and he would tap the trees, and he would get some trees, to get enough to make tea. That made wonderful tea. That sap. And he would tap with, this tree is mountain ash. He just nick it like this, and then put it down. That's what he'd use for spouts, to get enough for his coffee or tea, whatever he made. That's when they first went up there to open. There was deep, deep snows then too that time. They would, the first time the person goes in there, would have to dig it out, their huts or wherever they lived in.
Did they camp
Camp.
right up there while they made the
Well,
soup?
my grandmother had her own old house there. Camp where their beds, nothing but beds and cooking place. But where they boiled it was a different place. They boiled it right on open with covers, birch bark covers,
Cedar mats.
cedar mats and great big. Up there, that house that burned, I still had one of those chains where the big kettles were. I wouldn't let George use it for his dog team. Little old dog, he used to harness that up, I wouldn't let him, he wanted to break it, little pieces of that chain. I said, no, you don't. And it burnt there. I can't find it today. That chain.
I suppose someone picked it up.
I
for the
suppose
fire.
somebody picked it up, yeah.
When you got in the sugar bush, after you got organized, were you able to go visiting then?
Oh,
Or did you have
yes,
time?
they used to go out visiting different places when all the work is done. And they'd go one place and they'd tell stories, old time stories, And then up there again, but it was scary all the time. Them hoot owls were so awful. That's what I was scared of. They make so much noise, they screech so close to the road. I was afraid of them things.
Do you remember what kind of stories they told?
Oh, something about me in a bush of stories,
Well, these Nanabujo stories, you can only tell certain stories certain times of the year, isn't that right?
That's in the fall. If you tell the stories, they said you would be visited by frogs or something.
The story about the Thunderbirds too, isn't it?
Yeah,
You can only tell that at a
Thunderbirds,
certain time.
That's the only time they did in the fall and winter. You're not supposed to tell them kind of stories in summertime and
Yeah.
spring, especially spring. I don't know what that.
Do you remember the story about the Thunderbirds? Have you heard it?
Not the Thunderbirds. I don't remember nothing about the Thunderbird. I remember one story, Grandma. Well, it's not really a story either. I helped her. I had a big pack of those baskets. You know, she was tapping trees, and there was a little bird out there crying, like, you know, Jimmy. That's why he's a little bird. And Grandma would be tapping trees. Just her and I was up there then. She'd be tapping trees, and we'd go to another tree, another tree. I'd take the baskets out for her. And wherever we went, we'd hear that little bird, she-man. So I started mocking it. So I started singing the way it was singing, and Grandma hit me almost with that hatchet. She was, you know, tapping the trees with. She says, don't you ever again mock that little bird. That little bird is crying for his sister or brother. She-man means, don't you do it no more, because you might lose your sister or younger brother or something. She-man means either brother or sister. So I didn't, you know, and I quit. I didn't mock that little bird anymore. That night when we got through work, and I asked her what kind of bird that was. That was so sad little bird. I says, what kind of bird is that? She never did tell me what. To this day, I haven't seen that little bird, but I hear it every spring. You can hear it in April. You go right out there in Sugarbrush, you'd hear it. You know what she-man was to that little bird? This was in April. She was crying for the March month. That was her she-man. March month, you know. That was just like a younger sister or brother to this little bird. And this was in April. That's something. If you go up there, not now, it's too late now. In the springtime, do you ever hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard it. That's the saddest little, I felt so bad about that little bird. But it wasn't really his sister, it was crying for the month. Me necking it.
Yeah. Can we stop and think of something?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Liza, we were at the tree a while ago. What's your feelings about the name of the witch tree?
I don't think it should be called witch tree anyway. I think it should be called something nicer than witch tree. Something like spirit tree. Manito Ishik, yes, Manito Ishik. Ishik means guide to something like that, something nice anyway, instead of being it called witch. I don't think it's right to call it that.
They made offerings to spirits, not
Oh
witches.
yeah, I suppose, yes. But what they did is offerings for good things, not bad things. Witches do bad things, I guess. But when they wanted good trip wherever they go, and that's why they offered tobacco offerings on the tree.
For a pleasant journey.
For a pleasant and nice journey. No trouble. No big winds. Like that. That's why they did their offerings. So I should think they would not call it witch tree anymore. They should call it something better than witch tree.
Something more dignified than witch.
Something more nicer than the witch tree. I think that's what I think.